everyone, welcome to the Traditional Outdoors YouTube channel, and thank you for joining us for the next video in our series around traditional archery and traditional bow hunting 101, introducing the basics and the concepts to new and aspiring traditional archers and traditional bow hunters. Today we're going to talk about archery form. We're not going to get into a lot of depth and detail around form. I don't think, one, I'm qualified to do that. I think you're better off finding a mentor locally that you can work with, or better yet, a certified coach. That way they can watch your shot execution, identify the areas where you may need some improvement, and coach you through that. It's kind of hard for me to do that through the video. What I want to do is walk through what archery form consists of to give you a better understanding so that you can ask the proper questions if you're having issues with your shooting and do seek out some guidance from others. One thing I will mention, I'm going to include at the end of this video a couple of links. One will be a link to a video that Garrett Prawl of the DIY Sportsman YouTube channel did. He was having some issues with his shot execution, reached out using Trad Gang, and was contacted by a gentleman named Arnie Moe. Arnie is a certified archery instructor, and he contacted Garrett, offered to help him out with his shot. Those two got together and they actually videoed Arnie coaching Garrett through the issues that he was having. It's a great video to watch. And then Arnie also has his own YouTube channel with a handful of videos that do a much better job of getting into some of the detailed components of archery form than what I'm going to go through here. So be sure to check those out at the end of this video. So archery form, what is it? Basically, it's a combination of steps that you go through to perform shot execution. And to do it properly, there's certain things you need to focus on so that you can be consistent in your shot execution. And that's really all it is. So we're going to walk through each one of those steps and throw out some terminology that you often hear just so you'll understand what that is. The first one we'll talk about is stance, and you will hear stance quite a bit. The only thing I'll really tell you about stance is to start out, you want to make sure that your feet are roughly shoulder width apart and that you are perpendicular to your target. Now, I'm a right-handed shooter, so in this situation you can pretend that the target is off to my left. I'm facing towards the camera, so my shoulder is pointed to the target. If you were a left-handed shooter, this would be the opposite, and the target would be to your right, and your bow would be pointed off to your right. But still, I'm facing towards you, and the target would be off to my right or my left. The second thing you'll hear is bow arm. What's your bow arm? If you're a right-handed shooter like I am, then your left hand, your left arm is going to be your bow arm. If you're a left-handed shooter, then your right hand or right arm is going to be your bow arm. And that just means that this is the bow, the hand or the arm that you're going to hold the bow with. You're going to hold the bow towards the target, and basically you want your upper body to form a T, meaning from your bow arm to your elbow as you're going through the shot execution should roughly remain in line. One of the biggest things you see new people or new traditional archers or new archers doing is they're raising that elbow, and part of that is because they're having to develop that upper body strength that I've talked about before. So that's the biggest thing to keep in mind, is as you're drawing the string, and we'll get to that one in just a minute, make sure you're keeping your elbow in line with your bow arm. That's the biggest things as far as how your body is supposed to be set up for the shot. That's your stance. So we talked about your bow arm, we talked about drawing the string. Before we get into the next step though, I'm sorry, I do want to mention one more thing. You will often hear people talk about canting the bow. C-A-N-T, cant. When you're first starting out, I recommend that you start out with the bow pretty much vertical, but as you practice, get better, get stronger, you may want to actually start leaning the bow to one side, which is called canting. It opens up the shot window a little bit. It helps keep the string on the bow, which a lot of people have trouble with initially. But try to start out with the bow vertically, and if you're having trouble, you can cant the bow to the right or the left, again, depending on whether or not you're a right or left-handed shooter. When it comes to drawing the string back, the two things that you'll hear most common is split finger or 3-under. And I've got an arrow here, and I'll demonstrate real quickly what that is, and it's simply what it sounds like. If you are a split finger shooter, then you're going to place your string hand, this is your string hand, this is your bow hand, with one finger on top of the arrow nock and two fingers below. Your index is above, your middle and ring finger are below the arrow. That is split finger, and then you would draw the bow and shoot. 3 under is when all three, your index, your middle, and your ring finger, are under the nock of the arrow. This is the way I have started shooting. I used to shoot split. Try them both, see which one you like better. There are a couple of minor differences between the two. Mainly with 3 under, it brings the arrow more in line with your eye. And we're going to talk about aiming or instinctive shooting a little bit later on in another video, but it does get the arrow more in line with your eye, which does help a lot of people. So try them both and see which one you like. Again, that's split finger or 3 under. The next thing you'll hear people talk about is anchor. An anchor or anchor point is just a means of knowing that when you draw that bow back and you come back to full draw and you're ready to execute the shot, you're stopping at the exact same place every time when you bring that bow back. The consistency leads to accuracy, again, as I've said before. Now, most people use their index finger in some manner in part of that anchor point. For me, it's the corner of my mouth. You'll often hear people talk about burying it against their eye tooth. I don't really do that. I just use the corner of my mouth. The thumb can also be another or a second anchor. Some people bring it behind their ear or touch their earlobe. I tuck it under my jaw when I come back. So I've got one finger in the corner of my mouth, my thumb and the meat of the web of my hand is under my jaw. And then I also use the index feather on my arrow as a third anchor point. As I come back and get my index finger in the corner of my mouth, my thumb is tucked up under my jaw, and now that index feather is touching the tip of my nose. Now I've got 3 anchor points, so I know every time I come back to full draw, I'm stopping at the exact same place every time. Consistency. You will hear me say that over and over again. Consistency leads to accuracy, and that's what your anchor is all about. Now, the last step or the last component of archery form or executing a shot is the release. And the release is a little bit different than every other aspect of this setup in this shot execution. With everything else, you're doing something. You're raising the bow, you're grabbing the string, you're pulling the string back. All of those are activities that you are actively doing. But when it comes to release, the idea is to stop doing something. You're going to stop holding that string. And that's all it really needs to be. It doesn't need to be any animation, any intentionally opening the fingers, or you'll see a lot of people when they first start, they want to throw their hand out to the side. All of those things are going to result in poor shot execution and inaccuracy. So you want to come back, anchor, hit your release, and then stop holding. And your hand should just fall back away from your face, and the arrow should leave the bow. And that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else I really want to include here, so I'll wrap this video up, but that's the steps of shot execution and proper form. Again, seek out a mentor, find an archery coach. If you're having any issues, make sure that they go through the shot process with you, watch what you're doing, and they can identify any areas where you may need improvement. Until next time, watch for the next video. I thank you for joining us, and be sure to check out those 2 links that I'm leaving at the end of this video. Thank you so much.